Hi, what we're going to do now is take a look at a sample child support order. And this is based on that very first exercise that we did in the last audio recording, the one about 3 children and the mum was going to pay child support. So what we've done is taken the facts and the numbers and put it into this order. So it's showing us a consent order. And you can see that it looks like it was the dad, Ronald Clausen, who filed for divorce. We know that by looking at his titles there. Plaintiff means, of course, that he is the one who filed the statement of claim for divorce. The subtitle applicant means he is the one who has applied for this order. So being the parent who has custody, sole custody of these children, I think it was, he obviously is asking for a child support order. We can tell that obviously he and his wife have agreed to the terms of this order because it is a consent order. Scrolling down to the preamble, we looked at preamble for consent orders before in the course. So this part here is the usual preamble for a consent order, talking about affidavits being reviewed and the court having heard counsel for the one side and noting the consent of counsel for the other side. But what is different is this part of the preamble. So when we do a court order for child support, whether it's a consent order or a contested order, any court order that includes child support, we need to include in the preamble a statement or 2 statements setting out the defendant's guideline income and the plaintiff's guideline income, because we know that child support is based on those numbers, so that has to be part of the introduction to the order so that the numbers that follow make sense. So that's why we've thrown those in. So we see the names and birth dates of the children set out like we've seen before. So let's scroll down to the second page of this order. Now this is a more complete order than what we've seen before because this one addresses custody, access, and child support. So paragraph 1 deals with custody. It looks like they've agreed to joint custody, so we see that there. We know that means mom and dad are going to make decisions for the children. And then it goes on to address physical custody here, saying that the children shall reside primarily with the plaintiff. So that is physical custody. And then we go on to have unspecified access. We know that by the general phrase reasonable and generous access. So that's unspecified access. So there's custody and access in paragraph 1. Paragraph 2 is where we see child support starting. So we start off by setting out the table amount. So there's that $687. The table amount, we would have gone to that table and used the mom's guideline income. We plugged it in there and we got $687 a month. So there's our table amount. And we have a start date for the payment of child support. So in this order, child support is going to start on March 1st. There's no magic in the first of the month. It could be the 10th, it could be the 15th, it could be the 20th. It depends on the people involved. Paragraph 3 then goes on to set out the paying parent's share of the special expenses. So in this case it's mom. And we figured out when we did that exercise that mom's share of special expenses was 42%. And so if we add up all of the special expenses and take 42% of them, it equals $260.40. So you can just look back to that exercise that we did earlier if you're a little unclear or not quite remembering how we did that. So it's $260.40, and here it is broken down in this chart here. So we're just breaking it down item by item. So for example, the before and after school care here. we show on the left-hand side that that expense belongs to all children, and our paying parents' share of it is $168, and then in the bracket we're showing how we got at that. It's 42% of $400. And then we repeat that same setup for each of the other categories of special expense. So the next one, medical dental insurance premiums, again that applies to all 3 children. Mom's share is here, 42% of $20, which is $8.40. And then the last one, extraordinary extracurricular activities. This one was hockey, and we can see here that it relates to the 2 boys in this family. And Mom's share of that, 42% of $200 or $84. And so if we add up this column here, that's how we got to the $260.40 that we're seeing above in paragraph 3 there. Okay. So paragraphs 2 and 3, we set out the table amount and then the paying parents' share of special expenses. Let's move on to paragraph 4. So here the plaintiff, that is Dad. Dad shall provide basically medical and dental insurance coverage for the children of the marriage. The courts like it set out in a court order which of the parents is going to include the children on medical insurance coverage if that exists. Here it's Dad, and it's because Dad is paying the premium each month that Mom is reimbursing him for her share of that insurance. And we know that from the table above that Mom is reimbursing him $8.40 a month for her share of that expense. So it's just making it clear Dad should carry the insurance. We know Mom's going to reimburse him for that. Paragraph 5 relates to maintenance enforcement. And so it talks about the amounts owing under this order shall be paid to the Director of Maintenance Enforcement, MEP, we call that MEP. And it goes on to talk about how that's done. This is a mandatory paragraph in every court order that includes child support or spousal support. So we're talking about child support. We have to include this mandatory paragraph, and you include it as is. You don't need to change any of the words. We're going to talk about the maintenance enforcement program pretty soon here. But basically, by throwing in this paragraph, the parents, and in particular the parent receiving child support, has the option to use this program if they think that would be helpful for them. And basically it's a free government program that will help them collect child support if it doesn't get paid according to this order. The point for us though when drafting court orders is that if we're drafting a child support order or a spousal support order, we must include this mandatory paragraph. Okay, so that's paragraph 5. The last paragraph, 6, which carries over onto the last page, the court is ordering that each party, here Mom and Dad, shall provide the other with a complete copy of their income tax returns on or before June 30th of each year. And so each year by court order, that's exactly what Mom and Dad have to do. Give each other copies of their income tax returns. What that will do is allow both Mom and Dad on a yearly basis to consider whether or not child support needs to be adjusted, because we know child support is based on the incomes of the parents. And so in particular, if the paying parent's income goes up significantly, child support should be recalculated and go up. If the paying parent's income goes down, child support would go down. So we need to have this exchange of income tax returns each year so that the parents have the ability to assess whether or not child support should be adjusted. So that, paragraph 6, is also mandatory. Okay, so a mandatory paragraph when it comes to child support. Scrolling down to the end of this order, we can see that it finishes off exactly like the consent order that we saw earlier in this course. So there we go. Those are some of the unique features that we see in an order that is including child support.